What's going on, guys, and welcome back to Footy with an Edge. Man United have just lost 2-1 at Old Trafford to Fulham in what was a disappointing result, but an even more disappointing performance. United were toothless in possession, extremely open out of possession, and just lacked any sort of positive qualities to go and win that game against 12th place Fulham today. Let's be honest, Fulham played us off the park today. Iwobi, Pereira, and Wilson had at least 5 opportunities between them to find the decisive pass in the final third, and they just wasted their chances. Had that been Brighton, Newcastle, or Wolves, we would have lost that game 4 or 5-0, and God knows what would have happened if we played City, Arsenal, Liverpool, Tottenham, or Villa today. I guess what frustrates me the most is that we had no chance against an average Fulham team. They didn't even have to play prime Barcelona football to break us down. They were just an average Premier League team. But are we actually surprised? Because as disappointed and frustrated as I am right now, I'm not surprised by that performance. We have been playing this level of football for the whole season, and we've been getting away with it. Kobbie Mainoo bailed us out against Wolves. McTominay bailed us out against Brentford back in October, and Bruno bailed us out with that worldly goal against Burnley back in September. No United fan should be surprised that we lost that game today, despite us not having lost a game in almost 2 months since we lost to Forest back in December. So what can we actually do to get to top 4 from here? Is it actually possible, given that there are probably 6 teams more deserving than us of a top 4 spot? As improbable as it might seem, I think there are 5 things that Ten Hag can do, and that's what we're going to discuss today. But before we get into that, here's a quick word from our sponsor, Post-Op Market. Are you a content creator that's frustrated by the absolute peanuts your social media platform of choice is paying you? Are you looking to generate additional revenue from your content but are struggling to find sponsors? Well, Post-Op Market is the complete solution that you're looking for. Post-Op Market is the only globally available sponsorship marketplace where you can easily market yourself or your content to potential sponsors and forget about the hassles of dealing with agencies and their lofty commissions. So head on over to the link in the video description below and sign up for your very own sponsorship page so you can focus on creating the best content possible while also getting paid what you're worth. If the Los Angeles Lakers don't make the playoffs this year, they might be looking for a new coach, and I genuinely think that Ten Hag should be applying for that job, because United have been playing basketball on a football pitch this whole season. Seriously, the amount of times we keep going up and down the pitch in any given 10-minute session is dizzyingly high. We keep forcing these high-flying transitions down our opposition's throats, where we win the ball back in our own half, play 2 or 3 quick passes to find the open man, usually this is Bruno or Casemiro, and they just hoof it to one of our forwards who are trying to get in behind the opposition's defense. And while I don't have the actual stats here, I'd be willing to bet that our long ball accuracy in these transition situations is less than 10%. It's almost like Bruno and Casemiro have a bonus clause in their contract to lose the ball at least 20 times a game. And what this style of play does is it requires our players to constantly play at full tilt. In most teams, fullbacks have the highest running stats because they are required to constantly get up and down the touchline to attack and to defend. At United, it seems like all 10 of our outfield players are playing like fullbacks because it's constantly up and down the length of the pitch for every single player. And this is especially taxing on our defenders. I don't know if you guys saw Lindelof and Maguire today. They were absolutely knackered at the end of that game when Fulham scored the second goal. It's only a matter of time before those guys pick up injuries if Lindelof isn't injured from that game already. And we already know that Varane is injury prone, so it's a matter of time before he's injured. And you look at someone like Diogo Dalot. I saw so many people talking shit about his performance today. Oh, he gave away the ball in midfield. He's making defensive mistakes. Well, what do you expect from him? He's one of the fittest players in our team. He's constantly asked to do the impossible and defend massive spaces that are left by our midfield and our forward line. And he rarely gets a second to breathe during games because we keep doing this full tilt basketball style of football. It's constantly attack to defense and defense to attack. As physically draining as this style of play is, I also think it is mentally draining on the whole team. Look at Bruno and Garnacho in these last few games. They can't seem to make the simplest of decisions in the final third, even when we know they have the quality to make them. And they look like they've just finished an ultra marathon at the end of every 90-minute game. This just cannot keep going on. Ten Hag needs to instruct our players to keep the ball in certain periods of games. If he insists on playing the same style of football, which I think he will for the rest of the season, at the very least, we should do it in 5 or 10 minute bursts and then spend the next 5 or 10 minutes just keeping the ball. Can we please do that? Because if we don't, I think we'll pick up more injuries to first team players and we will definitely miss out on even a hope of getting top 4. My second point here is kind of an extension of the first. While toning it down was mainly from the perspective of maintaining our players' physical fitness and decision-making ability, controlling the game comes down to footballing philosophy at the highest level. It is so frustrating to watch United defend their asses off for 5 minutes straight, win the ball back through hard work, and then give possession away in just 5 seconds. How can you expect any team in any league, let alone a team in the Premier League, play this style of football and consistently win games? Even newly promoted sides like Luton, Sheffield United, and Burnley can keep the ball better than we can. Heck, Luton controlled the game against us last week with just 2 midfielders, while we had Casemiro, Bruno, and Mainu in midfield. So I don't care if you are Pep Guardiola or the second coming of Johan Cruyff, it is just not possible to win games consistently by playing this style of football. You just have to learn to control games in certain periods, make your opponents work for the ball defensively, and then when you see them losing focus or losing their defensive shape, you go for the kill. If you're always going to be on full tilt, you will be the one making mistakes, and you will make it very easy for the opposition to take the ball away from you. I heard a stat today that United have allowed more than 400 shots against them in the Premier League this season, and it is only less than Sheffield United and West Ham. Think about how crazy that stat is. We are allowing the 3rd most shots on our goal in the league, and somehow we are still in 6th place. Why do you guys think that is? I've heard so many people, including the top pundits on Sky and BBC, blame this on our defenders, our injuries, and the poor quality of our players. But the truth is, we are shit defensively because we can't control possession. We keep sabotaging ourselves in possession, and that's how we're giving up more than 15 shots per game on average. So the second thing that Erik Ten Hag needs to do in order to get us top 4 is just control games a little bit more. I'm not asking for prime Barcelona total football here. I'm just asking for 10 to 20% more control than we currently have. And I don't want to hear that Bruno and Casemiro and the rest of our team isn't good enough to control games. We're not asking them to morph into Xavi and Iniesta. We're just asking for 10 to 20% more control than we currently have, and Ten Hag has the power to make this happen. I think the players will listen to him. I just don't think he's asking them to do that right now. By my calculations, Alejandro Garnacho has started the last 22 games in all competitions for United, starting on November 1st in our 3-0 loss to Newcastle in the Carabao Cup. Since then, he has played over 1,800 minutes of football in just less than 4 calendar months. That's an average of 84 minutes of high-intensity first-team football that Garnacho has had to play for Man United. And it shows. Garnacho has looked absolutely knackered past the 70th minute in most games because he's constantly one of our only outlets in transition. And he's constantly being asked to track back on whichever flank he plays. In that Luton game that we watched, there were at least 2 one-on-one situations where he had to make a relatively simple decision against the keeper, and he just fluffed his chances. I think those poor decisions were a direct result of his physical and mental exhaustion. He looks like he literally has nothing left in his tank towards the end of games. And I'm extremely worried about him picking up a long-term injury because of overuse. If we keep playing at 100 miles an hour for the rest of the season without taking breaks in certain periods of games, Garnacho will get injured. He will be out for a long time, like Martinez or Shaw or Malacia, who hasn't played this entire season. Erik Ten Hag needs to be extremely careful with this kid because he is definitely the future of our club. He is genuinely the one player in our team that you look at and think he has the potential to be in the Ballon d'Or conversation. And I'm not getting carried away here. He still has a long way to go for any of that to happen, especially because United need to be a good team that's actually winning things for any of our players to be part of the Ballon d'Or conversation. But he definitely has that flair and that technical ability to be the player that perhaps carries a team in his prime. So my third recommendation for Ten Hag is to find a way to load manage Garnacho's minutes in the next 2 games and perhaps the rest of the season, because it looks like he needs a break. Leave him on the bench against Forest in the FA Cup because we have Antony and Ahmad ready to take away some minutes, and leave him on the bench against City because we know we're going to get battered at the empty hat. And I know you guys will be saying in the comments that we can't afford to drop him because he's carrying the team, but we have no other option. If he gets injured, that's it. We're done for the rest of the season. So let's give him a break, and then maybe for the business end of the season in the last 8 or 10 games, Garnacho will be ready to actually carry the team by playing 90 minutes every game. Even though it is kind of a crazy expectation when you think about it to ask a 19-year-old winger to carry the team, but hey, that's where we are. Now, I think this is the 3rd game in a row where I've said this, but we need to give Bruno Fernandes a rest. In the 29th minute of the game today, Bruno tried to play Rashford in behind and he just swiped and miskicked the ball completely. And then just a minute later, he tried to play Rashford in again with an easy through ball, but completely misjudged it. He tried a total of 8 long balls and 6 crosses today, but only completed 2 of those combined. I know lots of people, including Goldbridge from the United stand, said he had a terrible game today, and I think he was even alluding to the fact that he's one of the people that are not fit to wear the shirt. But guys, what are we actually expecting from Bruno? He plays every minute of every game and never gets a rest. The whole team depends on him to create chances because Rashford and Garnacho are not creators. And he's constantly tasked with digging our team out of holes with his individual brilliance. And I get people's frustrations. Believe me, I do. He keeps giving the ball away, he keeps trying Hollywood passes, and he can't control games like we maybe want him to. But think about it this way. Do you think Bruno is just going into games completely ignoring Ten Hag's game plan? Do you think he's just some nefarious actor that's trying to sabotage this team on purpose? Absolutely not. Ten Hag is asking him and encouraging him to keep playing those long balls in behind very quickly to find Garnacho and Rashford, because he knows that our forward line and our midfield just don't have the creativity to break down low blocks or break down opposition defenses by themselves. So all of this puts all the pressure on Bruno to make something happen every single game, which means Bruno is mentally exhausted as much as he is physically exhausted, and more than anyone else in our team. So Ten Hag really just needs to rest him, at least for the FA Cup game, because I know Bruno doesn't ask for rest or gets rested, so even 1 game of rest is like 4 games of rest for somebody else. And then maybe, just maybe, Bruno gets back to his best and starts scoring and assisting goals for us. Now last, but definitely not the least, Ten Hag needs to play Marcus Rashford off the left or leave him on the bench. He is one of, if not the most limited high-profile player I've ever seen, especially as the marquee player in any top European team. This guy is our 3rd highest paid player at over £300,000 a week, and he's not very creative, he can't really hold up the ball, and he doesn't work very hard defensively. He's supposed to be good at taking on players one-on-one, but most of the time he just tends to dribble into walls. He's supposed to be really good at finishing, but he's definitely not elite at it. He's really good at just one thing, which is running in behind and finishing in one-on-one situations. That's kind of all he offers you. I know that's very harsh, but really think about it. What are his best qualities? Running in behind and finishing one-on-one. And I said this at the start of this season, Man United will never win a title with Rashford being one of our 2 or 3 best players. He's not good enough to carry his team on the shoulders like a Rooney or a Ronaldo or Salah or even Eden Hazard at Chelsea. He needs to be like the 4th or 5th best player on our team for us to actually compete for Premier Leagues and Champions Leagues. But that's a discussion for another time. For now, Ten Hag either needs to play Rashford off the left or leave him on the bench completely. He's absolutely useless as a striker and he's mediocre at best off the right. If we have injuries to Højlund or Garnacho, instead of moving Rashford to cover for them, we should just bring in an academy player or play Antony in those positions, because they will be just as useful as Rashford, if not better. I know this might sound very harsh, but you guys have to trust me on this one because it's the truth. We've seen him consistently be not good enough anywhere else but the left. So let me know in the comments down below what you think about the 5 things I just talked about in this video. And trust me, I'm not putting the blame for this game on Ten Hag. Far from it. I think the players have to take as much credit, if not more than Ten Hag for that performance or for any of the performances this season. But at the end of the day, it's the manager's job to get the best out of this team. If Ten Hag doesn't get this team to win or do well, then it's his job that's on the line. We're not going to fire all our players. So let me know in the comments down below. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed. I'll see you next time.